Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, folks. Michael Zuber, one rental at a time. Sorry about that little jumble at the end of our first video with Jonathan. We had a little Wi-Fi challenge. But Jonathan, welcome back. Why don't you wrap up your thoughts about the China market, and we'll get into topic number 2.
Yeah. So anyway, I was in the process of saying that I think there had been a lot of demand for dollars from China several years ago because so many people were. It was flight capital, right? And they were concerned about the Chinese government expropriating their money. There were also a lot of people trying to have some kind of U.S. connection to get their children over here. So there were a lot of people buying property, just normal everyday Chinese people buying property over here. However, I think that those same people would be the people who would be affected by a property crash in China.
Yes.
Some of them like would get their money out, but most of them would not have any money now to get out. So I'm not so sure that it would lead to a run on the dollar that would then, push interest rates even lower if that was what you were.
Yeah, I was just
at. So yeah.
Just curious. Yeah, what I see is a potential Lehman moment in China, because you're right. There's a lot of people that have their wealth tied to property, like we did, in 2006, 7, 8. And if this thing goes under, it could take others with it. So I'm just going to watch it. It's a movie we've seen, and it'll be interesting.
300 billion in U.S. like 300 billion that company can't pay to U.S. banks. I mean, it's a pretty small slice of the U.S. banking sector, and assuming it's spread out among a lot of other banks, like around a lot of banks, they can probably absorb it.
It's the counterparty risk. I don't know how I don't know if this is laddered up with CDOs or CDO-like things or all that stuff.
I think it would be more potentially dangerous if it was like one U.S. bank that might go down because of this. But if they had 30 billion at 10 different banks. That's probably.
That's in the risk profile. Yeah. Gotcha.
Yeah. So.
Well, what I want to do with topic number 2, thank you for that one, Jonathan, is I want to give you a huge pat on the back. About 6 or 9 months ago, yes, pat on the back for Jonathan. There was a lot of talk about tax changes for real estate investors. The 1031 exchange, stepped up basis, exorbitantly high capital gains taxes. And it looks like the latest proposal is coming out of the Ways and Means Committee kind of says Jonathan Twombly knows what he's talking about, because you nailed all of them.
Well, thank you for recognizing that. I'm not surprised by this, since this is what I predicted. I'm also not surprised by the initial reaction that people made, which was like to panic and exaggerate and decide that the end of the world was coming. There are, despite the fact that AOC gets a lot of headlines and stuff, and she's very good with snappy Twitter comebacks. She's got a very quick mind, but she's not. And as much as Fox News would like to try to, say that the entire Democratic Party is just clones of AOC, the reality is very different. And the kind of, as I always said, the initial proposal was an opening bargaining position to try to get where they ultimately wanted to go, which was like probably right around where we are, right? So you kind of have to, people love to kind of make these dire predictions based on like the first proposal that comes out in a political situation. It's all part of the sausage making, and like what goes in doesn't really the end of the day.
Yeah. So we'll just highlight what they were, at least as I remember them. First and foremost, there was a threat to the 1031 exchange. Then there was a slight tweak that, okay, we'll let mom and pops do it up to 500 grand. Basically, they were going at the big boys. That whole discussion is gone. 1031, at least the current proposal, isn't discussed at all, so it will continue.
And as I said at the time, 1031 is a provision of the tax code that basically is sunset by its own terms, like every 5 or 10 years. So it comes up for review every 5 or 10 years. And every 5 or 10 years, the real estate industry goes, oh my God, they're going to get rid of 1031, and they make this huge stink, and then it never happens. And this is 1031's been around for like 80 years now.
Mhm.
So it's baked in. Like
Yeah.
it is not going away. The only way I could possibly see it going away is if there were some wholesale like rethinking of the entire tax code,
Right.
where they just decided, like, you know what, we're just going to go and like get rid of every deduction in the world and reduce rates down to like 10%. In fact, this is what I think they ought to do personally. They ought to just eliminate all the tax breaks and for everything, and just just make the tax code simpler, and
Yeah.
get rid of eliminate all the accountants and lawyers, and just have like a very simple flat tax and be
Yeah.
done with it. Say, if you get $1, you pay 10 cents on it, and that's it.
Done.
End of story. Right?
Yeah.
That would be ideal. But short of that, the tax code is going to continue to be riddled with pork and special interest giveaways, and and as much as hey, we're all real estate investors here. We love to think we're not a special interest. We're not getting an insider giveaway. 1031 is absolutely special interest pork giveaway.
I've used it.
We use it, and it is. Don't think like we're entitled somehow, or we're special, or we're not taking advantage, or we're not like. This is just a flat out giveaway to us, right? So
no question, and I'm glad it's staying. I plan to use it a lot.
And we're all glad saying, right? But people they have a real tendency to like get on the high horse about other people's giveaways, but their own is like sacred. Like, no, we're special.
Yeah, we're different.
Different. We're providing value to the economy.
Yeah, affordable housing. Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So 1031, it's here to stay. It's not going anywhere. Don't worry about it. 5 years from now, the same thing is going to happen. They're going to say it's going away. It won't go away.
Nice.
So just have the panic attack then. Either.
All right. So number 2, the discussion around the stepped up basis. This is the one that I thought actually had a better chance of staying, because I was with you at the 1031 exchange. I'm like, doesn't feel right. You'd really hurt, affordable housing and bigger stuff. But stepped up basis, I'm like, ooh, that one could smart. But it looks like stepped up basis is not part of the latest proposal either.
Yeah, and stepped up basis, I'm not surprised by either, because that's always been part of the tax code too, right?
Okay.
And the idea has always been there that the reason you get stepped up basis is because in theory you paid whatever tax is owed. The heirs to an estate pay whatever taxes are owed when they inherit. You may not pay any tax because you may fall below the threshold at which there is tax due.
True.
But so even if your tax obligation is 0, well, you've paid it, right? So therefore, now you get it at the stepped up basis. Like that's the kind of theory behind it. Why?
Yep.
So the issue has always been, well,
where's the line? Yeah.
Line, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whether you're going to incur an obligation or not, and like whether you're going to actually have to pay dollars or not, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's always been the debate, and that threshold, I haven't seen whether that has moved up. I'd be surprised if it was staying at 11 million under this tax proposal.
There's been no discussion. I read several articles Sunday and Monday about it. There was no discussion of the stepped up basis. So at this point, it feels like it's staying at 11, or they're going to go back to earlier discussions where to revert to, I think it was 5 million was the one. I don't know.
It used to be 5. It was 5 for a long time, and then it moved up to 11.
Right.
Under the last tax reform. So, it's that's kind of where it is. But the stepped up basis, again, like
you were right again.
And also, it's very related to 1031 too, right? I mean, because
true.
It's part of like a whole, sort of
series. Yeah. All right. Then the last one, you also nailed this one. There was talk about taking capital gains all the way up to ordinary income, which in the state of California would have taken it to 39% for a total, when you add state and federal, of 53%. And now they're talking about a cap at 25%, which obviously feels a lot better, but is still higher than current cap of 20%. But you nailed that one as well.
Yeah. And this is the capital gains tax rate too, has always kind of bounced around in a range, right? It used to be much, much higher.
Mhm.
And then it was cut down to like 15 at one point, and then it bounced back up to 20, and it's been sort of like, but it sort of stays, and that's like, there's always been this idea that corporations have to pay something, and then, but it's investment income, you've already paid tax on it, so you should get double taxation, or the corporations are paying a tax and then they're distributing it to you, and then you pay taxes. So like, there's always been some recognition that it should be lower than the normal tax rate, right? But again, the threat was, for the initial bargaining position, we're just going to make it the same, right? And I think there's a lot of popular anger out there towards people who don't work and just collect passive income,
For sure.
and especially, and not necessarily even the people who like work their way towards that, but the people who just like, they've never worked a day in their lives, right? So because granddaddy was the one who
who did the work.
So who did the work, so it's a politically easy easy one, but I'm not surprised where it wound up. So because it's always been around that range, right? So
yeah. Well, again, you nailed all of these. It was very impressive. I remember the conversation, and certainly your opinion was in the minority at the time. But you nailed every single one of them. So I appreciate that. So maybe offline, you could give me the lotto numbers for the week, and I would greatly appreciate that.
I got to start playing myself, if I'm that good. So
yeah. Well, do me a favor, Jonathan. We didn't get this in the first video. How can people follow you and get part of your world?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for bringing it up. Easiest thing to do is go join my free Facebook group, which is called Multifamily Investment Community. When you go to join, please join it from a computer, because you're going to be asked 3 questions, which you need to answer to get in. They are very innocuous questions, like, you agree not to spam the group, right? Stuff like that. So there's no personal information. If you drop in a note there that says, hey, I know you from Mike Zuber's videos, I'd really appreciate that. I'd love to get, see who's watching. And that's it. And then you can always use your phone after that. But the first time, it won't show you the questions on the phone. So go on a computer and join.
Very cool. Thank you very much, Jonathan. Look forward to topic number 3. Thanks, buddy.
Yep.